Welcome to the Atlanta Gladiators podcast, your go-to destination for everything Gladiators. Twice a month, live from the Business Radio X studios at the Gas South Convention Center, play-by-play broadcaster Liam Gotimer will interview a Gladiator about his journey to professional hockey. This week, we're proud to highlight number 71, Joey Cipollone, who since coming to the Gladiators has been a key force to the club's offensive attack. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 60 of the Atlanta Gladiators podcast. Live from the Business Radio X studios, welcome to episode 60 of the Atlanta Gladiators podcast. I'm your host, Liam Gotimer, the Director of Broadcasting and Communications for the club. With that, I'm pleased to be joined today by number 71, Joey Cipollone. Joey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Liam.
The pleasure is all mine. So, Joey, let's go back to the beginning for you. Growing up in Purchase, New York, how did you first get involved with the game?
First got involved through some family, actually. My cousin, which is funny enough, he's also named Joey Cipollone.
Okay.
He started playing at a local rink, and I would go watch, and then fell in love with the game and started following his footsteps. And pretty crazy enough, too, that he also played Division I hockey and also played in the coast for a little bit. So always funny crossing paths. We have similar friends, and we're both named Joey, so that always created a little fun little laugh.
I was about to say, that's pretty funny. You're the second Joey Cipollone
Yeah,
in the ECHL. Gotta love that.
exactly.
So did you start out as a forward, Joey, or were you a defenseman, goaltender? What position?
Started out as defenseman, actually, and that
Okay.
didn't last very long, probably a year or two.
Okay.
And then when I first switched to a new team, we're short forwards, and that's how I got into playing forward.
Gotcha. And you just never looked back from there?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. So you grew up in New York. We talked about this briefly before the podcast started, but you were a Rangers fan. What was that like growing up and just, rooting for the Rangers in Manhattan? So.
Being a Rangers fan was awesome. Had some really good teams growing up. Made a couple Stanley Cup finals. Always were in a playoff race, and always had some blue collar 200-foot players, which is what I always loved watching about my New York Rangers. And so, yeah, it was always fun growing up, watching the Rangers games, going to games. I was fortunate enough to go to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals when they played LA, and that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So being a kid growing up and having those guys to look up to was definitely awesome.
That was the one game that they had won in that cup final,
Yes,
right?
it was.
That was a fun one. Not a fun end to that Stanley Cup final, but is what it is. Was there one player on that team or on those Rangers teams that you looked up to, as you were getting into your hockey career?
Always a huge fan of Ryan Callahan.
Okay.
I was always undersized a little bit growing up, and he was always a great 200-foot player, played with a lot of pride.
Yeah.
So just little things like that was always something that I really enjoyed watching about him, and he was a great Ranger, and the city embraced him really well.
It's funny, I'm thinking back to my childhood, and of course I'm not a hockey player, but I always loved the game, and I wanted to be a broadcaster, and my dad would always tell me, in life, be like Callie. Always work as hard as you can, and just have that leadership mentality. So it's very interesting that he was the player that you looked up to, and you do remind me of him in a lot of ways on the ice. So I love to hear that, and we'll talk about the Rangers as we get into your time with the Bridgeport Islanders, because that's definitely going to be an interesting connection. But before that, let's start talking about your time in the USHL with the Tri-City Storm. How did that go for you? How did you first get involved, and how did you think it helped your development?
Yeah, so first got involved, was committed to the University of Vermont, and the main recruiter there for me was Kyle Wallach, and he had a connection with the Tri-City Storm. So throughout my time at Loomis Chaffee, that was always the possibility of me to go out there and play before I started my collegiate career. And that came into fruition when I went out there for 1 year under Anthony Noreen. It was a great time. He's an awesome coach, great guy. And he just got the Miami, Ohio job recently. So
Sweet.
He's going to do a great job there. I know that. And yeah, that 1 year was huge for my development. Obviously, you're growing up and you're playing your youth hockey, and everyone's a big dog. But I learned a lot about myself that year, how to handle adversity, how to be willing to take on different roles and grow within my 200-foot game. And I think learning a lot of that stuff during my time in the USHL really helped me get a head start when I was a freshman in college, have a good college career and a good start when I was at Vermont. And a lot of that was attributed to the stuff I went through in the USHL.
And how do you think your development in the USHL has helped you now that you've begun your pro career, just in terms of the little things that you touched on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, each level presents new challenges, and you don't know what they are really until you get there, and everyone's journey is a little different. So you'll hear things a couple guys go through, and you could take things what they learned from. But I feel like once you get in it and see it for yourself, then that's when you really were able to embrace and learn those lessons.
So after your time with Vermont, you decide to transfer to Quinnipiac. What went behind that decision?
Just need a new opportunity. Being close to home was also really nice, and then
Yeah.
the big cherry on top was playing for a team that was competing for Frozen Fours and national championships every year. Um, being transferring when I did, I was fortunate enough to be given that opportunity by Rand and the staff, and knew that I would be able to come in there and help a team that just provide some depth, and not only that, just be a part of a great culture. Learned a lot about myself away from the rink there, and met a lot of my best friends at Quinnipiac. So I'm extremely grateful for all the time that I had there.
So describe to me that whole season when Quinnipiac finally culminates with a national championship victory.
It's special. There's no one way to really describe it. I'm fortunate enough to be part of that team, and also win that with my brother was, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to top that. There's so many different ways you could think about that team, and the big thing that always comes up for me is just how proud the community is, the culture we have there. The alumni base is tremendous. Those guys were always in our corner, and they're always guys that we always leaned on. So when I think back to that championship team, I really think about the culture, and then I also think about the sacrifice my family went through to not only get me in that position, but also my brother.
At what point in the year, Joey, did you have a feeling that we could go all the way?
Pretty early on. I'd probably say our second or third weekend, we went and played North Dakota, which is a pretty hostile environment.
Yep.
And our first game didn't really handle the moment too well, and we were still able to sneak out of there with a tie. And then Saturday, we had everything clicking, and we took it to them pretty good in a pretty hostile environment, one that was similar to playing in the Frozen Four. So probably at that moment, I had a really good feeling that this team could get over that hump. But also too, during the year, you don't want to be thinking about that right away. And we were very good at staying in the moment. We're very process driven. So not only that year, but we had a lot of leaders that came back for a fifth year just for that moment of getting over the hump and winning a national championship, as we went through a little bit of adversity the 2 years prior and not getting that job done. So I know we were able to finally get it done, and it was awesome to see the university and the program and what it meant for Quinnipiac. It was really special.
You mentioned staying in the moment. Let's fast forward to the national championship game. You touched on how the club was down 2-1 after the second period, but down 2-0 at one point in the second period. What was the Cubs' mentality when you fell behind early on there, but to be able to come back and eventually force overtime? We'll get to the overtime winner, but just what was the thought process of the team just when going through that?
We're still confident. We relied heavily on our training, and we knew that we were always in games. We're a deep hockey club, and one of the things we prided ourselves on, like Buccigross said in overtime, was our fitness. And we always knew that we always pride ourselves on being a third period hockey club. We always knew that our training was outstanding, and that we were able to kind of get better as teams would fade off. And so even though we were down 2-1, we knew we didn't play our best hockey that first period, and then started to take a step after we were able to get that first goal. And that third period was pretty evident of our team identity, that we were able to just roll over them in waves, and we're able to get that tying goal. So yeah, we're definitely a confident group. No one wavered, and that's probably the most impressive thing, is that even though we're in a big moment like that, we're able to stay together, and our character was able to come through.
And then in overtime, Jacob Quillen scores the overtime game-winning goal to secure the national championship. Take me through the play and kind of your perception of it.
I mean, it's a routine face-off play just to create possession, get it in the zone, and we would run it a lot in practice. But Even when you do it 5-on-0, there's times where that line like wouldn't be able to run it as clean as that. And it's just something where it's just a matter of details. Like one guy makes a mistake and a great pass from Metza, but yeah, you're sitting on the bench. You're not thinking you're scoring off the jet, so you're just trying to get ready for your first shift, and then before you know it, you blink and we're national championship. So it's pretty crazy to think of it that way. Um, Still get chills every time I think about it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a special goal.
And you touched on earlier winning the national championship with your brother. Just in that moment, what sense of family pride did you feel to not only call yourself a national champion, but to be able to call your brother one as well?
Yeah, there's even 2 years later, there's still no words for it. Justifies pretty much both our journeys. Both of us being national champions is something that I don't even think I could dream of growing up. Like it's something that I know my parents sure did, and we're very fortunate that they were able to live that out. It was definitely a truly blessing of a moment after the game when
Yep.
we saw them, like me and my brother were able to see my mom, my dad, and my sister all on the glass. We have a nice family pic, so that's something that I'll have with me forever, and that's something that no one can take away.
It's got to feel like a culmination of just hard work since day one paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like every kid, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made growing up, and we're all very lucky to have parents that are willing to do that for us.
Now on to the goalie matchup in that national championship. Yaniv Peretz was the goaltender for Quinnipiac. Now he comes back into town with the Bloomington Bison, the club that the Gladiators will take on for the next 3 games. How cool is that?
I'm very excited to see him. He's a one of a kind character, but he's an amazing person. His dedication to the game is unlike almost anyone I've been around, and yeah, so I haven't seen him in a while since our alumni weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. And I know last year I had a couple matchups against him, and I wasn't able to put one past him, so hopefully I'll be able to this weekend.
Right. Yeah. Must have been kind of sweet for sure. So moving on now to the opposing goaltender in that national championship. It was Justin Close, who is now one of the 2 starters for the Jacksonville Icemen. Your breakaway goal this year came at Gas South Arena against Justin Close. Walk me through the play, and how did you feel knowing that you were able to beat him in that moment?
I was able to just break away from the D, and Sly and Needles were able to make good plays on the wall. And I don't get many breakaways, but I had a breakaway, and I was like, wow, all right, like what's going through my mind, and just kind of made a move that was just natural in the moment.
Yeah.
And got a fortunate bounce, but you need that sometimes, and I was definitely happy that it went in. It was a big goal for us in that game.
Yeah, it certainly was. So following college, you signed an American Hockey League contract with the Bridgeport Islanders. My first question is, growing up as a Rangers fan, knowing that contract is coming your way, was there any thought in your mind, man, I'm signing with the Islanders franchise here? Or was it, no, I'm just looking straight ahead, going for my journey?
It's always looking straight ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you joke, and it's like you grew up a Rangers fan and now you're part of the Islanders organization. But any kid will tell you just to get an opportunity like that, it doesn't matter who it's with, you're going to take it. And I was very fortunate to Lamarillos that they were able to give me that opportunity last year, and I was able to go to camp and watch some of the best guys do it, and was able to take a lot there that's helped me out there in my pro career.
What would you say are the main things that you learned from being a part of that camp?
Just the way those guys take care of their bodies and how they treat people. The A-class organization, the staff there did a tremendous job of just teaching us little things that help over the course of a 70, 80 game season, which is a little different than your typical 30 or 40 in college. And then all those pros, all the NHL guys treated all the young guys like me so well. And doesn't matter what status you are, how you treat people is incredibly important. And it was awesome to see those guys, even though they're at the highest level and making a lot of money, still treat us with the same respect.
It's not always about the on-ice play sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, there's a lot more that goes into it.